Welcome to episode 85 of the Mountain Mantras Wellness and Life Lessons podcast. This podcast aims to inspire you with wellness and performance tips that you can incorporate into your daily life. I'm your host, Dr. Catherine Gaillet. Learn more about my work at makeeverythingfun.com. My guest today is Eva Medilek. Eva is a certified high-performance coach and a relationship success coach, coaching both men and women in personal development, leadership, and mastering habits for success. She specializes in helping driven executives, entrepreneurs, influencers, and businesses achieve higher levels of growth without sacrificing health, well-being, and relationships. Eva believes that the power of your personal and professional relationships can be unlocked in a way that creates success and high performance mastery in every area of your life. Welcome to the show, Eva.
Thank you for having me, Catherine. I'm happy to be here.
And I love how you include relationships as an aspect of health. I know if we look at sort of a wheel of life or a holistic, healthy person, that relationships comes up. But I also believe that sometimes when people think just sort of off the cuff about the definition of health, that it becomes sort of a me-focused thing, like what am I eating? Am I being physically active? Am I taking care of myself? But the idea that relationships are, a top area within health, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, when I talk about relationships, people automatically think, and I've heard this more than once, well, I'm not in a relationship. Yes, you are. You're in a relationship with yourself. You probably have people you work with, people you talk to, people who are related to you that you're in relationship with. And so my point in connecting your health with the health of your relationships is it's very simple. If you don't feel good, you're not showing up as your best self. When you're not showing up as your best self, on your A game, as a high performer, it's leaching into every area of your life. When you are stressed, when you are overwhelmed, when you are frustrated, you are more likely to have a knee-jerk reaction and not a responsible response to any situation that you're in that would lead to a specific result or outcome that you want. And so I have this formula, S plus R equals R. S is the situation. The middle R plus R, you can either react or you can respond, and that will give you the result. And you have a choice in that middle R. And a lot of times that choice is based on how we feel in the moment. Are we hungry? Are we exhausted? Are we mentally fatigued? Are we physically fatigued? Have we eaten right? What are the foods? What are we putting into our body that's affecting how we feel? That will affect how we show up. So you see the connection that I make when it comes to health, well-being, and relationships.
I love that equation of S plus R equals R. And I know I've heard that. I've heard a variation of it from Jack Canfield. I know we're both fans of Jack Canfield. But it really puts this emphasis on that choice. You said that middle R is the reaction. It is the choice. So on this podcast, on Mountain Mantras, we've done a lot of discovery into trauma, into the brain-body connection, and into the subconscious. And so what we have learned is that a lot of times our choices, the situation actually might even need to be elevated to the upstairs brain, because if we're reacting, taking your middle R from a deeper part, from the downstairs brain, from the fear, from the amygdala, maybe we don't make that right choice. So when you're working, and this is great because a lot of the people that we've been talking about this to, that in the context of that choice, have been therapists that are working primarily with with individuals, whereas you're working with entrepreneurs, with influencers, with businesses. And so to get your perspective on how you educate and inspire them to kind of whether they need to know or not, it's part of the subconscious, but to get them to that upstairs brain so that they can make a good choice. Tell us how you do that. I'm so interested.
Well, that's a good part. My work with an individual is really in the context of a 2.5-hour intensive. And what we do is we determine what your relationship style that was created, that forms your beliefs, your patterns, your behaviors from your early life experience. Because that is what I call your relationship operating system, and how you do what. And so it's not until you discover why you react and respond the way that you do, can you actively make a conscious choice to shift and change. So I like to say I make that awareness, I make that connection so that you know that your knee-jerk response or reaction is due to a habit or pattern that was formed in your early life experience. And once you make that connection, you can sit back and process from whatever operating system that you have and say, okay, I feel this way because when X, Y, and Z happened when I was in 5th grade. And let me be clear, I am not a therapist. I just want to make that clear. I've studied works of a lot of people who've done studies on this, and I've created kind of, I would call in relationship like a pocket coaching to just create awareness. I'm not going to heal your trauma, and I'm not there to make you deal with it. I want to show you where it shows up to damage and sabotage what you want to create, how it shows up to damage the health of your relationships, the health of your body, because stress and overwhelm creates those triggers. I mean, we feel it in different areas of our body when somebody says or does something and you're like, a deep wound is hit. That creates a reaction in your body that creates inflammation that, affects your brain, affects how you feel. So my work creates that awareness, which is the foundation for you to develop habits and practices for high performance, for your best future self, for your best you that you can be, so that you can show up and create extraordinary results in your life because you're aware. Now, if you've got deep trauma, that's a different area. But you'll know when, okay, this is a result of that. I'm acting like this because of that. It's not your fault. It's not the other person's fault. They don't know that they've hit a wound in me. And so it opens up some understanding of, okay, I like to say when we're dealing with difficult conversations, always look at the person you're talking to and say, was it their intention to hurt me? Did they start this conversation? I'm going to figure out the best way I can hurt Catherine with my words. Mm. And chances are no, but they don't know the effect that their words may have on us because of our early life experiences that developed our beliefs that when somebody says that, this is what they mean. Because my mom always said that to me, or my dad always said that to me, or the bully in school said that to me. And it creates a wound, and then we react to it. And so a lot of it is so deep, we don't recognize it. And so some beautiful awarenesses and aha moments are developed in that deep dive. And the reason why I do it so long is because I'm sure a lot of people have been in a therapist's office or on the phone with a therapist, and they start looking at their watch at 10 minutes of the hour. And you're just getting started, right? You just released something that you want to continue. And it's like, time's up. My next person is in the waiting room. No, we've got the freedom to unpack all of that and then wrap it up. And what I mean by wrap it up is give you the next best steps for our next session.
I love that we're talking about this, Eva, because I've always been a fan. Let's just say once I understood how the conventional medical system works. And when I say medical, I'm talking about docs, I'm talking about acupuncturists, I'm talking about, naturopaths, I'm talking about therapists, mental health, all that. I'm looking at a future world that I'm dreaming about, where we have allied practitioners, and it includes coaches like yourself, like what I do as well, so that the docs, that might be prescribing are talking to that wellness professional, and that wellness professional that mental health wellness professional, and that mental wellness professional is talking to the coach, and that coach is talking to, and we're all talking together. And then we include other, alternative modalities. And I don't even like the word, let's say complementary modalities, to really move that client forward. And often it is, like you were talking about time, often it is with the coach where the deep dives and the transformation can occur. And it's really, and the reason is because you might just spend 15 minutes with the prescribing doc if they're prescribing, but that's kind of how physicians,
the time.
They're very, very short on time. But the coach is really where, as long as there is, there's some guidelines around, this is coaching and this is therapy, and it's very well understood and it's an open conversation. It's certainly a better conversation if there's a team. But I love how you are creating awareness, not only with your clients, but also in the world, about how if we just say, you know what, my childhood was fine and it doesn't affect me. And, and that, frankly, I think has been the prevailing attitude of at least most of the, Fortune 100 and 500 companies that I've been working with for the last, including myself, right, in the last couple of decades. It's like, the past is the past. Let's focus on what's right now.
Yeah.
But what you're saying, and this is a great sort of mantra, is that becoming aware of that relationship operating system, which kind of is that it is the past. Like we cannot just say it doesn't matter, it's the past, or it doesn't, it doesn't apply, because if it's running in the background, it does apply, and it's always going to come to the surface in some way, whether we like it or not. So basically you're creating awareness around something that maybe has been taboo, maybe has been a little stigmatized.
Yeah. And, some people just aren't aware of how deep the effect of the environment you grew up in is. And, and that's basic sociology and all of that stuff. But I'm talking about it at a relationship level. And, if I may share a bit of my story around that and how I got my awakening and aha. When I started building my real estate investment company when I turned 50 and was downsized. And I was working as a dental hygienist. I was learning how to invest in real estate. I was studying. I was traveling. I was cooking. I was doing the laundry. I was doing the shopping. I was doing it. And I was newly married to my second husband, but I was in a constant state of stress, burnout, overwhelm, with drive and determination, because I'm already 50 and I'm starting a new business. I've got to be successful in 5 years, that's it. And this is what I'll share with you. How I was showing up as a human being, my way of being, was deeply affected by the stress and overwhelm and burnout I was feeling. And I knew it was affecting my relationship, but I thought, we'll just get through this. We'll be fine. We love each other. He's really a good guy. Nothing's going to happen. And then one day I woke up and I had that discovery that my husband was having an affair. And how I had that discovery, I was looking for a photo on his phone of a project that one of our apartments that we just rehabbed. And in that moment, I realized that my way of being had contributed. Because I want your viewers and your listeners to hear that he's not to blame. We each take 100% responsibility. We're not 50-50. We are 100-100, just to be clear. And I can talk about that later. But I realized that my way of being contributed to what he was feeling and caused his self-sabotaging behavior. Now, with some people, it may be drugs. With some people, it may be alcohol. It's just something to either soothe a hurt or a pain or satisfy a need that they're not getting in that relationship at that time. But in all my conversations with my husband up until then, I thought he had the perfect childhood. Beautiful, perfect family. He's from Germany. Parents stayed together. Children are educated, doing well. Everything was rosy about his childhood and his stories. And then the afternoon or the next day after I found out about the infidelity, we went on a hike. And I started asking more probing questions. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, we're on a hike. He could push me up the side of this cliff in a minute because this is going to be, I watched too much Dateline just to be funny about it. But what I discovered in some of the things about his early life experiences without breaking a taboo was that he traditionally didn't have his voice heard as a young child in making family decisions, which created a deep wound in him, which I was doing in my building of the business, because I was getting educated. I was making the decisions. I was in control of what we eat, how we shopped. I'm a controller. And, I have different relationship styles that, I recognize myself in at that point. And again, his voice was nobody was listening to him. He didn't feel important. He didn't feel needed. He didn't feel heard. Here comes another woman that gives that piece to him. And it gives him that high that he needs from doing that. And so what I have learned in the course of all the work that we did and how I help my clients, especially powerful women like myself, who may think it is weak to feel that level of intimacy and compassion in a relationship, is getting intimate and compassionate and seeking to understand. We can do that without giving up our power. And I go a step further to say it is a part of our power to be able to do that. And to be able to do that and hold space to be generous for someone else in your relationships.
Eva, you are getting into some really deep stuff here, and I want to summarize a few things. For those that haven't studied psychology as neurotically as I have, and it sounds like Eva has, she's kind of getting into what are called the deepest schema, that are key to understand in relationships. And I'll make that a mantra, and I will also put some information about what that means. But it is like you were talking about your ex and his inability to be heard, right?
So he's my present right now.
Okay. You guys mended.
We turned that breakdown not to a breakup, but a breakthrough. He is my rock. He is by my side.
Goodness.
Oh my God. He is my biggest champion, my biggest supporter, and I am his biggest cheerleader. And during all of this recent upheaval in our world, he has been the one that has been holding me.
Okay, so Eva, you're going to have to take us forward a little bit on that cliff and how it got to that, because I didn't even see that it was going there. But I want to summarize a few things. Schema also include things like I am not enough, I am not lovable. It's really, really deep stuff here. And so I do want you to explain about how through the power, and I love this idea of this feminine power that you mentioned, that if we can be aware of and even heal these deeper schema, that we can get to the point where we are each other's rocks. So bring us up to speed.
It's funny because I'm going to be 60 soon. And I did have a point to that. And then I got so into the story, I forgot the point. And the point was we did heal, but we did therapy first. We did about 3 to 4 months of couples therapy. We found a great therapist who was great at personal development and transformation as well. So there was a both and in our therapy, and we knew we'd be in it temporarily. And from the therapy, we each got coached individually. So he chose an individual therapist. I chose a relationship coach. So we worked on ourselves together. And then we worked on ourselves because it was about taking personal responsibility. And so we took the space to work on ourselves privately, to get messy. It was messy. It was hurtful. It was painful. But there was a beautiful breakthrough on the other side of that. And because of that, I have been able to develop a process to help my clients through that. Because a lot of my clients have gone through therapy already. And they still you hear people in therapy for years and years. And and not really moving forward. And the key for us was taking that coaching step to really see our blind spots. It's just powerful.
And Eva, I want you to next describe that process, but I also want to summarize because I want to get some really great mantras out of here. And you've mentioned this idea, and it's interesting because there's another friend of ours in the EBC, Marilyn Suttle, who talks about this in her subtle shifts. And that is that we must take 100% responsibility. And she says for 50% of our relationship, which I love, right? It's like, and you said that as well, like, but you said like it was 100 and 100, 100 for you and 100 for him. And I should have, thought at that time, I don't even like the word shared. There was a nugget there in thinking that with that level of awareness, that you might be able to break through and get to where you are today with each other being the rock. But tell us more about the process that came out of it for you, whether it was taking bits and pieces and adding your own, but it sounds like a powerful process to move forward in taking 100% responsibility.
Well, until I became aware of why I was responding and reacting in the ways that I was, why I was, I don't want to say, strong in my power as no emotion was involved with me, I had to go back to where that happened. And I break down my relationship styles in an acronym with styles, STYLE. Seeks to please, tries to control. Y is a yo-yo, which is a push-pull or back and forth. L is looks to accept blame, and E is the evader of emotions. And so each of them have certain adult traits that stem from certain particular home environments that you grew up in. And so I'll just speak about me. I was told from my dad not to cry unless something physically hurt me. And hearing that and growing up with that and being patterned to respond that way emotionally to shut it down, of course I bring it to my relationships. Because I'm strong. I don't cry. I get things done. And the men in a lot of relationships have grown up with that. Men don't cry, be a big boy, suck it up, you're a man. And so that gives you that kind of evader quality that makes you uncomfortable around other people's emotions and not really in touch with your own because you shut them down. And that's part of, I had kind of two styles that were dominant, one more dominant than that one, but that was just a piece that's easier to explain that people can relate to, where I was showing up. And also, I had a parent that worked 2 jobs so that I could go to private school in the 60s and was never around for me. That was my dad. And I always desired that connection, but he was always checked out or too tired for me. And so there's that yo-yo style that's always longing for connection, but doesn't get it. And then we retreat and we get so disappointed that it manifests as anger. And then we look at what everybody else is doing. So this stuff gets really, really deep, but we went through those processes to understand. And one of my favorite books is The 5 Love Languages, Gary Chapman. We also got to understand that I was speaking my love language to him and he couldn't understand it. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. He speaks German, I speak American. I'm not even going to say English. And so we got to really learn what's important to the other person to feel loved. And we consciously and intentionally do that for each other. I need hugs and touch. He's German. That's not even a part of their culture. But I also am responsible for asking for it if I need it instead of blaming him for not giving it to me. Well, I can't blame him if I don't ask for it, if he doesn't know I need it. And so women, we a lot fall into that pattern. Like, he should know by the fact that I'm shut down or that I've given him the look. He should know. Men are not mind readers. I'm speaking to the females in a heterosexual relationship. They're not. And I know that when I ask for what I need, he's happily to give it. And he feels needed and wanted. And so, and I don't even know what else to say about that, but we've learned to do this masculine and feminine dance. When he needs me in my masculine, I'm there for him. When he needs to be my feminine, I can be that, and vice versa, because we all have masculine and feminine in us. It's to learn to dance with it in a relationship. That's beautiful, and that's where we've come to in our relationship. So I want to say that I have the best now. I'm saying that tongue in cheek because, don't get me wrong, we are far from perfect and we still stumble, but we get up a lot faster now. And it makes us closer each time.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that happy ending. And it sounds like it was a lot of work and a lot of self-discovery and a lot of other discovery. And it's also really interesting. I think this has come up as a theme, as sort of these struggles that happen to our life often lead to breakthroughs in our professional life. And so, Eva, I thought it would be really fun to look at how this discovery process, self and other discovery, has added to how you coach and work with others. And in the introduction, I talked about entrepreneurs and influencers and businesses. And so how did this learning process kind of add to how you work today? Maybe even just like a case example of, coaching an executive or a team where a similar type of discovery process, self and other, led to much stronger outcomes for that business. Because I think it's important to create this conversation and continue the conversation about how these types of discoveries, inner and outer discoveries, are important in the business world.
Yes, well, I can think of my a client that just signed on with me for one-on-one private coaching. I don't do teams as much as I do the leaders of the teams per se. And I took him through the relationship foundation of my high performance mastery coaching, which is a 30-day process. And then I took him through the 3 months of high performance coaching, the 12 weeks, I should say, of high performance coaching. And then I asked, at the end, I usually ask, what was the most powerful piece of that? And, there's 12 specific modules in high performance coaching. And he said, honestly, Eva, it was the relationship piece. Things that I've discovered about myself that prevented me from creating the results in my life that I really wanted was the most powerful piece. And once I unlocked those and had the discovery of those, I could do the other things that led from what he was starting a nonprofit for LGBTQ homeless youth. But a lot of times, his relationship style was preventing him from taking the bold, courageous action steps he needed to do to move that business forward. And, and you can be in a bold, courageous action step, and then something stops you and pulls you back. To recognize what that is and to bust through it anyway so that you get those results, get to that next level, get your goals, get your dreams, not making it about you, which is the biggest thing, because we hold ourselves back, because we make it about us, how we feel. It made it more powerful for him to get past that. And he goes, that was the major breakthrough and aha for him. I just had a woman last week that I put through just the initial 2.5 deep dive. We haven't finished our 30-day process yet. And just even in the middle of it, and this is my oxygen when I see my clients go, my mind is like more than blown right now for what you just unleashed for me. Because the discovery of the thread and how you do one thing is how you do everything, but where did you learn to do that one thing? And why is that the one thing that can stop you from creating greatness in your life? I answered your question.
So, well, it of course leads to another question. And so it's really kind of around the return on investment and what you're kind of saying, especially with that that first example, is it is this softer kind of thing? Because you said that when he looked back at that 12-week process, it was really the relationship piece that provided the most return to him in terms of his own transformation. The interesting thing I'm curious about, Eva, is what brings an executive into a process. You said at the end, he looked back and was, oh my gosh, it was the relationship style that I needed to learn about. But my guess is that coming into the process, the perspective might have been like, oh, I want to learn about XYZ when it comes to high performance?
I will tell you, it is the stress, overwhelm, and burnout, and knowing that, you're irritable in your family life. You don't spend enough time with your children. You constantly feel exhausted. It's that same feeling that I had. You don't have time. You're under stress. You're burnt out. You're cranky. You may be bickering more. You may be shutting down and not speaking to your spouse. You don't have the bandwidth to be your best self. Because of the amount of things that's on every, CEO, entrepreneur, business owner's plate, and you're just you're just exhausted, and like my relationships are suffering. I go on vacation with my family and I'm still on my email and my phone because, this team has a problem and that team has a problem. You don't. And here's the thing I know, there's transitions. Let me give you this example. If you ever seen cars racing around a racetrack and they're all speeding and they're trying to win the race, and then they pull off to the pit stop and they've got everybody working on them so that the tire, they're changing the tires and all that. They got off before the tires blew. They got off before whatever happens under the hood with the spark plugs and the ignition and all that, before it broke down. We don't set ourselves up in our day for that. We keep going until we run out of steam. And then when it's time to transition to our family, we've got nothing left. Our tires are blown. We're out of gas. The oil needs changing. And then the kids are jumping on us. They want our attention, or our spouse has a problem they want it. We don't have that energy to give. If you can learn the habits and practices of high performance that set up your day so that you're just as energized at the end as you are in the beginning, and you know how to make that transition so that you're there for your family, you're less likely to have trouble in your relationships, whether they're relationships with your employees, with your employer, at home, at business, at work, and on the streets. So there's these transition moments that you get to build into your day to re-energize yourself. And that's when we get back to health and well-being and relationships.
And I want to pause for a minute and get your specific definition of high performance.
High performance to me is really developing the habits, practices, and principles so that you can have extraordinary results in every level of your life. And it really is, I don't know, I have a hard time putting it into words, but it's that without sacrificing your health, well-being, and relationships. It's creating success without sacrifice. What habits, practices, and principles do you need to integrate into your life so that you can live your life fully, full of joy, full of vibrancy, and be successful? It's a both and. And it is specific. And you see most CEOs, you see it in the news all the time, like billionaires getting divorced, movie stars getting divorced. They don't have those habits, practices, and principles to set themselves up to win, not only their day, but in life. It's strategic and it's intentional. Most of us are going through life without an intention. When you are practicing high performance, you're clearly intentional in everything that you do.
I love that. And I love how the definition itself with the habits, practices, and principles implies that it is a journey, that it is a process. It isn't something that just like comes down in a beam of light, right? And you mentioned the intention as well. So I thought it would be great you've already mentioned a few ways that you work with people. And again, on the idea of, on the journey of high performance, you mentioned the 2.5 hour intensives, you mentioned the 30-day program, and then the 12-week program. Do you have other ways that you work with people, or do you want to tell some more information about any of the programs that I mentioned?
Well, the program is actually a total of 4 months. The first part is the 30 days that includes the high intensive relationship piece with the follow-up 30-day support. The second piece is 12 sessions of certified high performance coaching, which is very unique because it ties into your life. It's very curated and specific for you and what you want to create. And it really is a 90-day plan to get your big goal or dream processed or whatever you want to accomplish in your life. I also, it's funny because we're doing this session during a time where there's a lot of unrest in our world. So we don't know, and I imagine it's not going to go away anytime soon. But I really want to help people at this point go through that relationship piece and be coached around how to create relationships around the intimacy of race. Because the intimacy of race is a specific intention that I have to teach white and white presenting leaders and influencers on how to have that allyship awareness in their lives. And, I'm in the process of creating that. I have a co-creation live stream that's launching launching soon. And in the next couple of days from the taping of this, that is going to be the springboard for people to really be able to work with me on the awareness, not only of themselves and how their habits, practices, and principles are contributing, damaging, sabotaging what really is their intention, which is love and inclusivity. Because I always come from a place of intention. And I know a lot of people have good hearts and good intentions, but there's so many blind spots. And so I am on a mission to help the leaders remove their blind spots so that they can support the people that they influence to do the same work.
Beautiful. And again, so important right now. So you do have a lot going on. What a beautiful mission and so relevant in these times. And how can people find you, learn more about your work, learn more about your programs? Give us a few websites and or places that you love for people, whether it may be social media, follow you, et cetera.
Yeah, all right. I never really think the social media space, but yeah, my website is the easiest, which is evamedilek.com. It's my name, and I'm sure they'll be able to see that. I also have a wonderful, just little PDF, which is a guide for the powerful ways of beings that we alluded to that I implemented in my marriage to help us through that breakthrough healing process that we went through as well. So I kind of broke them down into 6 steps. And my social media is, I've got an amazing Facebook group that I just started called The Intimacy of Race. So if anyone is interested in that, please join that. That's a safe, open space to create the listening to learn platform that I want to initiate. So I have that. And Instagram is Personal Coach for Success. With the number 4.
Right.
With the number 4.
And I'll put these links in the show. Yeah,
of course. Yes. And that's about it. I'm easily emailable at eva@evamedilek.com. I answer my own email. That's all me. So when you get a response, it's not my assistant, it's me.
Well, Eva, thank you so much for your stories today, for your mantras, for your inspiration, and for the wonderful work that you're doing in the world today.
Oh, thank you so much, Catherine. I appreciate the opportunity.